Okay, we're back with a video, Exit Through the Gift Shop, a Banksy film. And when you open it up, you have your little box, and then you've got your DVD case, and it opens up again, and it just shows you some images of Banksy's art with the DVD. I'm going to go ahead and read you the back of the DVD cover. The incredible true story of how the greatest graffiti movie of all times was ever made. This is the inside story of street art, a brutal and revealing account of what happens when fame, money, and vandalism collide. Exit Through the Gift Shop follows an eccentric shopkeeper turned amateur filmmaker as he attempts to capture many of the world's most infamous vandals on camera, only to have a British stencil artist named Banksy turn the camcorder back on its owner with wildly unexpected results. One of the most provocative films about art ever made, Exit Through the Gift Shop is a chaotic study of low-level criminality, camaraderie, and incompetence. By turns shocking, hilarious, and absurd, this is an enthralling modern-day fairy tale with bolt cutters. A wild ride of a film, you'll be laughing endlessly. Okay, I liked it. I liked it a lot. It's very unusual. You don't know where it's going. You don't know what it's about. But by the time the film ends, it just has this kind of amazing ending. Now, putting that aside, it's absolutely a buy and absolutely a watch. But in the current marketplace right now, there is some controversy as to whether this film is truly authentic or whether it's contrived and set up. Because in this film, you have a French man who lives in Los Angeles, who's a camera videoer, aholic, and he videotapes everything. And then he goes back to Paris and he starts videotaping his nephew or cousin or family member who does graffiti. But it's the one who does the this, which we'll talk about it, this little tiny emblem right here. He makes these digital things, not digital, that's the wrong word, a ceramic mosaic, and he puts it on a plate, so he creates the art at home like Pac-Man figures with mosaics, and then he cements them to public places, and all of a sudden you find these little things showing up all over in public. And once the Frenchman from Los Angeles gets introduced to that, he then continues to go out with all these graffiti artists at night, following them on all the things they do to get, whether it's stencils on the wall, posters put up, spray painting, whatever they do. Some of them do it spontaneously, some of them study an area and then make a decision what kind of stencil they're going to put their art there afterwards. Well, the Frenchman ultimately meets Banksy, who is a famous graffiti artist in London or England. And from what I understand in studying Banksy, a lot of his work was then not stolen, but taken from public places and brought to auction houses in Great Britain and started auctioning off for unbelievable prices, of which he didn't participate in any of that money of his art going up, because he was just doing the graffiti stuff on the street. Somebody took it from the street and brought it into the auction house. After that, Banksy started doing some art shows in galleries and things like that, and his career started blooming. Meanwhile, this Frenchman, which I don't know his first name, I forget it, Banksy supposedly wants to get a hold of all this video footage because the Frenchman had said, I'm a film director and I'm making a documentary, when in reality he was just an obsessive video recorder person. So Banksy gets into this guy's stash of videos and says, you need to go create art, you need to go send some out on a project, go back to Los Angeles and go do an exhibition. And then meanwhile, Banksy and his crew gets into this guy's video, it cuts and splices everything and actually makes this end movie product. And the other thing that's kind of funny is they said that it's, instead of Paramount Pictures, this is kind of funny, they did this here. They did, Paranoid Pictures. So I think it's kind of ironic. Well, this French guy decides that he needs a street name because all these graffiti artists want to have a name that they travel incognito with, so that, a lot of times when they're interviewed, they're covered, they've got masks, they have their voices changed because they could, in fact, get arrested for the things that they've done, which is vandalism. So this French guy names himself Mr. Brainwash. And in the movie, it then has, at the very end, Banksy kind of putting down Mr. Brainwash, and also Shepard, I forget the other guy's name, Shepard Farley or something like that, putting down Mr. Brainwash and putting down why the art is not what it's supposed to be. And in reality, Mr. Brainwash does have some genius streaks. He may be crazy and wild, but there's no two ways about it, assuming his character and persona is authentic and they didn't stage him to act like this. He is a genius. He went and leveraged his business, his house, he got a studio, he started making art in massive amounts and did it on this huge high-profile level. He brought in graffiti people, not graffiti, graphic designer people, told them what to do to all these paintings, and changed them, and he started doing a very varied version of some of Andy Warhol's things. And then he put on this big exhibition, and although it wasn't done by a gallery, he did it by himself. Supposedly he had sold hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of art, and has a website, and you will find his image. Mr. Brainwash. I was trying to see. One of my other books has a picture of Mr. Brainwash. If I can find it. I don't know that I can find it this fast. But he was really quite ingenious. Now, after all of that gets done, where we're sitting at is the industry of art is now saying that possibly Mr. Brainwash, this whole thing that Banksy and Mr. Brainwash did was all of a scam. Here's an example of the guy that's supposedly a family member of Mr. Brainwash. He does these mosaic Pokemon things. I think this is the book where I'll see a picture of Mr. Brainwash. I myself thought that if it was really true that there it is. Let's see if we can get him in. This pink thing right here. Let's see how close we can get that and get it to read. I don't know. Yeah, that's him right there. I have to give that guy credit. It was pretty ingenious. What I thought was interesting is, there's an expression, don't get your pubic hair caught in your zipper. And it seems to me that a lot of these street artists do exactly that. They get their pubic hair caught in their zipper, because here you've got two different street artists that are complaining about what Mr. Brainwash is doing, yet there's a totally separate situation where King Robo in London, who's right now out of commission, got into a little pissing match war with Banksy. And things that Banksy criticized Mr. Brainwash for, King Robo is criticizing Banksy for being a hypocrite and doing the same things. But then King Robo had an accident in some of his graffiti writing. I don't know when it was, in the past year. But they didn't know if somebody had beat him up or if he fell, but the latest results are they think he fell when he was doing graffiti writing. He was having his first gallery show, and he created such a severe brain injury that he had to go into the hospital and stayed in an induced coma for who knows how much time. So, there seems to be just a real, like a pissy match going on between all these graffiti artists. And there are certain rules of the street that seem valid to me with graffiti art that should be respected. But then there's other rules that are jealousy and ignorance in terms of art. I mean, being an art critic and an art historian and an artist, plagiarism has an element that repeats itself. But one of the things that I found out about Banksy that also made me discredit him a little bit in my mind is that this image that he is so famous for, the rat, he stole that idea from an original French artist who had made all these rat stencils and had used them for years, and then he comes along, and many of Banksy's images are mirror images, modified and updated, of this famous artist that had it all way before him, the original stencil artist. So where Banksy in the video is poo-pooing Mr. Brainwash, the reality is Banksy's a hypocrite. He was stealing all his shit from some French artist. So I've lost a lot of credibility in Banksy, because although he is making the movement of stencilism very popular and very known, he is not the father of stencilism. He's not the father of many of the original concepts that he has pirated, modified, and changed from someone else. He's just the person who got it to be known. And he's made it to a high-profile position. There are, in the art world, in the status of the art world, I saw some discriminatory stuff where the Great Britain allows his graffiti to stay. The graffiti of other artists gets scrubbed off, and if they write on Banksy's stuff, they go back in and retouch up Banksy's stuff, because Banksy's stuff is making money on tours. Either you got laws or you don't have laws. And either they're allowed to do certain types of stencils or they're not allowed. You can't choose it. I mean, that to me is so discriminatory, and I am shocked somebody else hasn't come along and challenged that in the court. Because street art can be very beautiful, but you better find some ground rules. And it doesn't seem to me like the Great Britain has consistent ground rules, and that I saw in one of the videos I uploaded here. Anyway, as far as this movie, I'd say yes, it's an absolute buy, it's an absolute watch. The verdict is out on whether it is authentic or the entire thing was staged. And although Banksy is portrayed to be the top of it all with stencils, he's not. He's a plagiarizer, and then he just defined and went further with the plagiarism. And that's okay. That's okay that he did plagiarism, but let's get it right. He is not the father of stencilism. And some of the hypocritical things that have come out of his mouth about other people are his own shadow. So it's good. We're going to keep looking at it, and I think it's a good something to buy and learn. Ciao.